Welcome to another episode of the Theater Podcast, intimate personal conversations with theater's biggest names. I am Alan Seals, sitting here with Jillian Hockman.
Hello, everyone.
And we are about to present to you a wonderful episode with none other than John Bolton, who is currently playing Vlad in Anastasia. Is it Vlad or Vlad?
It's Vlad.
Vlad? Okay, excuse me.
We're from Russia, Mother Russia.
Was that your Russian accent?
It was very bad.
That was horrible.
Thank you.
John has been in the industry for over 25 years, and he's just a hoot to talk to. He came in just upbeat, happy, and we get into this amazing story of like his comedy timing, and he learns pretty much everything I've kind of figured out from the fact that he just watches and he dissects comedy. He was talking about like as a kid watching Carol Burnett.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was saying he also, one of his first gigs in New York was working in a theater, and he got to watch Madeline Kahn and all these different comedy legends and got to see kind of the best of the best doing the thing that they do and got to absorb all that.
Yeah, and he's gotten himself to a point now, it's interesting for me, he's gotten himself to a point where because his reputation precedes him, and he talks about this in the episode, that he's got some of the roles on his resume now simply because he got a call that was like, if you show up, you've got the role.
Mm-hmm. He is very well known, very respected. I've chatted with other people who know him who just adore him. He is a ray of sunshine and so lovely.
He has a rather large ray of sunshine, energetically speaking.
Optimism.
Yes, yeah. Optimism. So everybody, please enjoy this episode with John Bolton.
Here you go. 1, 2, 3.
He made his Broadway debut in 1994 in Damn Yankees, and since then has been a part of 13 Broadway shows, including notable titles such as How to Succeed in Business, ... Titanic, Spamalot, Curtains, A Christmas Story, Dames at Sea, and he's been in several off-Broadway shows, regional tours, readings, and benefits, and is now finishing up, including, I guess, the out-of-town tryouts, an amazing 3-year run with Anastasia. John Bolton, thank you for being here talking with me today.
Oh, hey. How are you, Alan?
Oh, hey. Sure you don't want your headphones? We've been
good with my headphones.
We've been having minutes and minutes of discussions of if you should use headphones.
All right.
So no, it's fine. It's totally fine. So how we always start on said podcast here is the very humble beginnings. Tell me about your childhood. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Rochester, New York. I had a wonderful childhood and nice family, wonderful mom and dad, always very supportive. My dad was a banker. My mom, Mensa-worthy housewife, champion of many bridge leagues. And 2 older brothers, 10 and 12 years older than myself, who loved sports. And that was their thing. And they tried so hard to make me like them too. And I did try, and those were some very fun years. But there was this thing called theater. There was the school play once in a while that would come around once a year. And the local community theaters, which to me was like Broadway. And so I had a little experience with, first of all, going to every one I could, and then I got my toe in the water, then my foot in the water, and all of a sudden I was the king of community theater in Rochester, New York. And I was so excited to do that. And I have a degree in journalism, BA in journalism from a college in Rochester called Fisher College. And but I wanted something steady. So I decided to audition for summer stock stuff and, made friends there. And I swear there was one summer stock job that I think I worked for 5 years off of that because of the directors I worked with and the choreographers that kept recommending me and friends kept recommending me. And now here it is about 30 years later, and I'm still here and so lucky to be working.
So what, you said 10 and 12 years you are younger than your siblings.
That's correct.
Have you heard that story from your parents? Were you a lovely, I guess, what am I getting at?
I asked. I said, "What happened? What were you guys doing for 10 years, Mom and Dad?" And he was like, "Was there an effort to not have it?" She said, "No. We tried." And then she would turn to my dad and pat his knee. "Didn't we, honey?"
All right. And at what point did you know that you wanted to do theater, though? Like, as you said.
Oh, gosh. Well, no one ever said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" Like, it was a smallish high school. And no one from my school had ever done it professionally. It was just sort of a hobby thing that you did. And at the time, I wasn't really good enough to really have anyone say that to me. The best that could be said was I had energy. and watching old videos of that, it's like, oh my God, someone just needed to calm me down. But I was so happy to be on stage. But, my parents, I was lucky enough where my dad had yearly trips to New York City, and he would bring me and my mom. Brothers were long gone. They were, long out of the house. So I had the benefits of getting fancy trips to New York and staying at the Waldorf, which I thought everyone lived at the Waldorf in New York City since I was a kid. And we saw, on my first trip, we saw Annie and the Wiz, and just thrilling for me to see kids my age on stage and in Annie, and then this wonderful adaptation of, everybody's favorite story there, Wizard of Oz. And I convinced my high school music department to do The Wiz my senior year, this mostly white version, not in blackface, I need to say, these days, 100% not.
Yes.
But we were so proud of that. It was a mixed race cast. And I think that was the first time where I thought, wow, I think I can sing, singing that stuff. And so it was little by little, like I knew I always loved it, but I never thought I was good enough to do it. And then the more I did, I don't know, the more confidence I got. And I was able to work with some great community theater directors and choreographers in Rochester. Any one of several of them could have come to New York and had a great career. They were just so smart and astute and brilliant in their own ways. And I think I had a great sort of side education while I was studying journalism by doing all these community theater shows at these great companies and learning from all these wonderful people.
That's incredible, though. I love that you were able to convince your school to do it.
I did. Well, it was between Lil Abner and that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
so I was like, well, when there's a choice, let's do The Wiz. And it was my senior year, and I designed the sets, which meant I got the souvenir program from when I saw it and did scale models that we could afford of that. And I am extremely proud of my scarecrow.
So you're the scarecrow. I guess at your height. How tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
6'2".
And I did not grow at all. I was always the shortest one until summer between 10th and 11th grade, where I think I grew about a foot. We went over to England for a vacation and traveled around. I literally came home a foot taller.
Bangers and mash, that'll do it.
That'll do it.
Yeah, you either grow out or you grow up, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the belly over there. Do you, of everything that you've done, and with your 13 Broadway shows, do you have a favorite overall?
Wow. Well, I think you're counting some as Broadway that maybe were close to Broadway. But let me think. My first Damn Yankees was so much fun because I had worked hard and it was my first Broadway show, and all of a sudden I was in one, and I was a replacement in it. I replaced my wonderful friend Michael Winther, who left the company fairly early, and there was also sort of sweet justice in that I had been in a show out of town called Paper Moon, which was supposed to come to Broadway, starring Gregory Harrison, Chandra Wilson, Christine Ebersole, Renee Elise Goldsberry. Mm-hmm. And it would have been the Broadway debuts of myself, Christopher Sieber, and Brooks Ashmanskas. And so our marquee was up at the Marquee Theater where Damn Yankees was. And we were thrilled and got the Sunday Times, 6 copies each of the Sunday Times. I still have these photos that I cherish of me, Chris, and Brooks with the stacks of the New York Times ads with our names in it because we were so thrilled. And then they canceled it 2 days before we started rehearsals, and that was quite the heartbreaker. And
why?
I don't know. That we had not gotten love letters, so to speak, out of town. The show needed a little work, they thought, and turned out it was a fairly weak season. I think we could have come in and done something there. But anyway, so Paper Moon is a no-go. Here's the Marquee Theater suddenly available. Damn Yankees has been a success out of town. And we're like, screw you, Damn Yankees, when their marquee went up and ours finally came down. And who knew that I would wind up in that theater anyway, just a few months later.
And the audition process, I guess they didn't come to you and say, oh, you didn't get to go on stage here. But
no, I wish it worked like that. No, I went to an open call. That my agent had submitted me for a replacement. Remember, this is 1994. And I didn't get picked up. It was Jay Binder casting. He didn't know my work. So I went to the open call because friends who I'd just done another show with at Paper Mill said, we signed you up, dude. We're going to have lunch. So I borrowed someone's music, went to go have lunch with my friends, borrowed someone's music, sang my quick little thing for Cynthia and Rubia and Rob Marshall and Jack O'Brien. And I had a call back later that same day, I believe. And then I got a phone call the next day saying that I was going to make my Broadway debut.
So you did.
It was a fluke.
I love. There are so many stories of people walking out of auditions and being like, "I didn't care about that," or "I'm not going to get that," and then it's like changed the trajectory of who they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I knew it went well. Like as soon as I was in the room, I thought the reason I didn't go initially to the open call or the reason I hadn't signed myself up at the time was Binder had seen my headshot and resume and said, I don't want to see him. He's not right for it. So I figured, well, what the heck? I'm not right for it. And so went in and it was my turn. Once in a while you go in and you get all the no's out of the way and you go in, you do your best, and once in a while it's your turn. And that day it was my turn.
And in 95, you did How to Succeed. And that's a very hard show to do in general, but you played several roles.
I did.
In the ensemble. And eventually, then you became the replacement for, of course, our beloved character, J. Pierpont.
I did. And to play that role was just an absolute thrill. And one of the great pride and joys of my life is that I've become close with the Lesser family. Frank Lesser, of course, wrote How to Succeed and so many other wonderful shows. But, and that was the beginning of that friendship, which I cherish forever. But I had a great time. And I joined the company as a cover to Matthew and
Matthew Broderick.
Matthew Broderick, who just a great guy, still a drinking buddy. And then Matthew went to shoot a film called The Cable Guy, which will tell you how long ago that was.
Yes.
And the filming ran late, and John Stamos' contract was up. And, well, who's going to do it? Well, how about Bolton? Because I had done it on a few other occasions, and people hadn't thrown things. So they let me do it for a while, and including a couple weeks opposite Sarah Jessica Parker, which was fun.
Oh, that's fun.
And then when Matthew came back to the show, there's this guy, me, making out with his almost wife on stage. So that was a lot of fun. But I had a great time doing that one. And Brooks Ashmanskas was in that as well.
Yeah. And well, so that's a character that many people have known and have seen so many incarnations of. Like, how do you approach making that character like the Bolton version? Are you allowed to take it and tweak it a little bit, or were you supposed to stay close to what Broderick did?
Well, there's a blueprint that is set certainly in terms of the blocking and a lot of the pacing that the other actors expect and are used to. And particularly coming in as a replacement, you want to respect the other actors' laughs that they're very protective of, as I am with when it's me that's trying to protect my stuff from a new person in the show, you try to fit the blueprint. But you know what? I'm me. I'm not Matthew. I can't go out there and imitate Matthew. They'll just go, well, that sucked. So I've got to be me and honor, what the blocking is and the pace and all that. And I was the right age at the time, and I suppose I had a little fearlessness that's right for the role, and a little bit of that, that sort of glance when you look at the audience. And I'm very, very proud of that. That was a great production, and Des McAnuff I'm so thrilled he trusted me with that for a while, because no one knew who the hell I was. So I was thrilled that they trusted me with it for a little while.
Well, obviously you did something right, because, I talk about Spamalot a little bit later. Mm-hmm. Spamalot, you were in the original Broadway cast.
I was.
In 2005, and standby for all of the male leads. Uh-huh. So real quick, for those who don't know, what is a standby?
A standby is a person who is hired specifically to cover usually the over-the-title characters. It's a fancy term for an understudy for the big leads or sometimes stars of the show. You don't cover any ensemble roles as a swing does, and you're not in the show every night in an ensemble role and jump up. But a standby is someone hired specifically to cover the stars, and it's oftentimes someone that like for on one show where I understudied the leading role, I didn't have it listed in the program that I was the cover for it. And then when I went on, it was just like, look, we have a special guest. It's Mr. John Bolton is going to step in this evening. So there's that. But standing by is absolutely terrifying. But you know what? I learned an awful lot from it, and it made me better. And I think everyone should do it. Everyone should understudy someone at some point.
As a standby, how much notice do you get when you have to go in?
Often 5 seconds. Go on stage, go, talk, start talking.
Do you have to stay off stage like in your costume until curtain?
There were times I had to at Contact. They would get me dressed, ready to switch out at any moment, because of course that big dance play was a very, very physical role. But I remember the first time I went on at Spamalot, they were like, "Well, Hank is not well, and so get ready. And so I wore the stilts for the first time that day, including this whole masky thing. And you're walking on stage in 4-foot-high stilts with a mask on and carrying a big thing and trying to be funny and trying not to fall into the pit. And it was the first time I'd ever worn it. So anyway, it's half hour or a little bit, maybe a few minutes before half hour. And I'd gone over all the Hank Azaria stuff that day. And they come to my room and they go, Hank's here. Chris Sieber's out. So I was like, oh, okay. So huge gear shift. I've had to put on the Black Knight costume, which I'd never worn. And for those that know the show, it's the one where the legs come off and the arm comes off. And it's just a flesh wound and all that stuff, which has to work. And I'd never worn it, ever. And we had 5 minutes in it and couldn't get it to work, couldn't find where the little levers were and everything to release the thing. And I'm feeling the pressure mounting. Finally, the stage manager, Peter Lawrence, wonderful guy, says, listen, Johnny, we got to open the house. So good luck, pal. So that was my first time on for that. Absolutely terrifying. But then you get through it because you have the support of the company. And fortunately, everything worked. And you're just like, wow, I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the cast, I mean, it was a mega cast of so many people who were known for comedy. You got David Hyde Pierce and Tim Curry, Chris Sieber, you mentioned, Hank Azaria, Christian Borle, and Sarah Ramirez.
Yeah.
Obviously you didn't go on for Sarah, but
I could have.
Maybe you did.
I could sing the hell out of it.
That's right. As you went on did you go on for every different role over time?
Of those, I did not go on for David, but I did go on frequently for Tim Curry, so frequently that I felt I actually own a little piece of that part. I didn't just get to borrow it. I feel like I was on enough as King Arthur that there's a little piece of that that's actually mine, and I'm very, very proud of that. And again, they gave me within the realm of the show. Fortunately, there's a little bit more wiggle room there because it's this ridiculous thing, and I've thought of a few things myself, and they let me do it, and I'm very, very proud of that.
Were you in it when Clay Aiken took over?
I was not. I only did the first 6 months because I had the opportunity to not cover all 5 leading men, but to play all 5 leading men in a little off-Broadway show called 5 Course Love that we did for a few months at the Minetta Lane, and I'm so glad I did. When I said yes to Spamalot, I, of course, was thrilled to be part of that amazing company and to work with Casey and Mike Nichols, my God. But, when they had were first exploring that, I wanted to go in for one of the roles. Well, Mike Nichols only wanted to see like 30 guys total, 1 day of rehearsal, let's bring in, and then they didn't think I was really right for that at the time. And I said, well, I'm not standing by, so this is over. And then halfway through rehearsals, they were like, they need to stand by. If you come in and shake Mike Nichols' hand, you've got this job. Because the choreographer knew me, the music director knew me, and they were like, just get Bolton, just bring him in. And that was very flattering. And by now, Spamalot has become, oh my God, it's this star-studded extravaganza. Yeah. I got to be a part of it. Plus this other show I had been done out of town called The Opposite of Sex, which was coming in, didn't come in. So, well, I want to work, and I want to work with Mike Nichols, and I'd love to work with Eric Idle and all these great fancy guys. So I did it, and it was terrifying. And it was difficult from an ego standpoint, I've got to say. But also, I'm extremely, extremely proud of it. And it was a great show. And there you go.
You eventually got to go on, replace Tim Curry as King Arthur.
Well, just he took a leave of absence. But they said, well, we won't hire, again, like How to Succeed. They were like, we'll trust you with this for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you went on for each different person, you were saying that every character or every actor is protective of their laughs.
Yes.
Right. So did it become sort of like second nature, or were you consciously aware of it every time you went on for a different role that you kind of have to shift your pace and shift your how you deliver the lines to give the other actors like their continue their laughs or whatnot?
I was really good at watching the show, and I'm fascinated by laughs. One of my first jobs in the city when I first moved here was renting the infrared headsets at 2 comedies. One was a musical comedy, Crazy for You, with great comedians in it. The late, great Bruce Adler, the great Harry Groener, and John Hillner, and then the Sisters Rosenzweig. So for every night for probably 5-6 months, I was watching Crazy for You, watching them get the laughs, find the laughs, lose the laughs, get frustrated by losing laughs, and then find them again or find new laughs. I studied that crap. I watched it every single night, and they were geniuses doing it. Same over at Sisters Rosenzweig with Madeline Kahn, Robert Klein, and Jane Alexander, just watching them hone their laughs and find them, and then, like I said, lose them and then get them back. And I really got good, particularly during Spamalot, of calibrating why things worked. And if someone lost a laugh, watching from the front so often because I loved watching the show. It was a blast to listen to the audience every night. But it was also great to watch. I know why he's losing that laugh. It's because that guy over there is moving. He's moving on that punchline. Or this guy over here is now playing the laugh before the punchline. And so we're sort of ahead of it, so it's not as funny. Watching it, you can learn so many things.
Yeah.
And watching some of the actors get frustrated by that, you don't want to go up to them and go, I'll tell you why you lost that laugh. Because she's moving over there, or whatever. You can't just do that. But unless you've had several, bourbons that have emboldened you in some sort of way. But just watching the show so much, I was really able to sort of calibrate all that.
That's fascinating. And we've talked to so many other people, and people have gone on understudies and other swings and whatnot. And you're the only person who has at least told us about watching from the house. And I respect, and I think you have a talent for finding, where you're saying like, oh, this guy in the back is, or that lady in the back is pulling focus, it's stealing the joke, and they're not even knowing it. Have you ever thought about? Have you directed before?
Well, while I was the king of community theater in Rochester,
Yeah.
I did a lot of high school musicals. So I directed a lot of high school musicals. It actually paid the bills. And a lot of them weren't very good. But you know what? A lot of them were. A few of them were. And I'm really proud of them. And a few of the kids have wound up on Broadway. And I take partial credit for that.
Well, it doesn't, at least you haven't told me yet, if you have had any formal comedy training. Are you just,
gosh.
are you just like, are your parents, like, is your dad the funniest banker ever?
Well, in some ways, sure. No, there was this thing in the late 70s called the Saturday Night Lineup on CBS, and it was the Mary Tyler Moore Show and the Bob Newhart Show and the Carol Burnett Show, and that was my schooling, really. Not even knowing it at the time. Why is this funny? What is the pacing here? Who's got the ball in terms of, you know what I mean? In terms of who's got the ball. Hey, you got to let her have the ball there so she can get that laugh, or so that we can get that laugh later. We won't get that laugh if she doesn't have the ball here, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all that started to come together. I was watching that stuff.
That's crazy. And have you ever thought about getting training? Do you take classes now, like acting or even dancing?
This is such a lazy response, and the answer is no. And I'm sad to say that. I go to the gym regularly, and I try to keep fairly fit, but because I'm a rubber guy, I got to keep that going as long as I can. But no, because I'm usually doing something with hopefully a good choreographer, and like Anastasia keeps me in shape. All the running around I do, and taking this leg and putting it up here, and taking Vicki Lewis and throwing her around, and jumping off of things, So the show keeps me in shape, that and the gym.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry to say I don't take class, and I feel badly about that because I feel like there's always something you can learn. No, you should never be so cocky. And I don't think, I know it all. I don't think I know it all. There is always so much more to learn. And you try to learn something every day.
Right. And well, you brought up Anastasia. That's my next segue here. Yeah. So you've been doing that since the out-of-town tryout in Hartford.
Yeah, Hartford in, I guess, 2016. We did the spring there, and we knew we were going to come in, and there was a 6-month break where, it was a very lucky thing. Every actor wants to know they've got a sweet gig coming up, and then you can just sort of fill in with a CLO contract here, a Muni contract there, but that's always the gift, is to know you've got something good lined up. And I knew it would run for a bit, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be playing this role, and I'm so thrilled, again, that they didn't go, let's get TV guy from the 90s who can sell tickets. Caroline O'Connor and I, who created the roles of Lily and Vlad, we're really proud of what we did. And we a director once tell me, when you're creating a show, pee all over that role. Pee all over it so that no one else can do it. Do everything you can to claim it. When you're doing a reading of something, when you're doing, those early stage things, claim it. I did it with Christmas Story. Good luck finding a guy that can, do everything with this. I mean, of course, there's always someone that can do it, but it makes the search a little bit harder, and it makes them think, well, this is our only guy because he can do this and he can do this, and this is what works about the show. So you try to pee all over it so that they'll keep you.
Had you seen the animated movie, I guess, before you auditioned or anything?
Oh yeah, I watched it maybe 2 days before my audition. I was aware that it existed, certainly, and my parents, the hilarious banker, and the bridge player, championship bridge player. They loved history, and I grew up in a house with lots of books of history. And of course, I had Nicholas and Alexandra, Anastasia's parents. Their big book, and there's all these pictures in the middle, which I'm drawn to as a kid. Oh my God, there's kids in this story. They all get murdered, but there are kids in this story. And it made it always sort of fascinating to me that maybe one of them escaped. It was always this, particularly the youngest one who, 16 at the time, the youngest girl anyway. Mm-hmm. Maybe she escaped this mythic thing that we just hope that this terrible tragedy maybe wasn't so terrible and that one got out.
And the show, like you said, there's murder. There's murder of children, which is not a funny topic. Yeah. When you read the script, I guess, was the script itself as like the character of Vlad was that as like kind of I want to say slapsticky, like Rubberman. You called yourself Rubberman.
Oh gosh!
Like how much did you bring to this? How much did you pee all over this role? And how dry was the page before you got it?
Oh my gosh! We're just going to keep talking about that metaphor. I'm sorry, everyone, that I brought that up, but it's a way of thinking. Sorry. Thank you. I was worried the cord was going to pull that over.
No, I'll just put this mic stand over here for you.
There you go. Fidget. Gosh, well, it was like Christmas Story where I thought, oh God, really? Because I knew what the role was because I just watched the film. And then I just started reading the material they sent, and I suddenly thought, oh my God, I think I can do this. I think this is totally and surprisingly to myself in my wheelhouse. And so I just worked on the material for 2 days, and you cancel all your plans. They give you the stuff. You learn the stuff. Learn those 2 songs they sent you. Cancel your plans. Go in, do your best. You're probably not going to get it, but once in a while, it's your turn. And I went in. I went last, and they had seen A Christmas Story. The writers had seen A Christmas Story, and apparently had said, "We knew it was going to be you." And I went in last. And as I was walking home from the audition, I got a phone call from my agent saying, "You're going to be getting an offer." And I was glad I got the film on Netflix just to see what it was, get the flavor of Kelsey Grammer's terrific vocal performance in my head. And again, nothing I wanted to slavishly copy. Like Christmas Story, there's this beloved performance. I thought, just get the flavor, hit the things that you got to hit, or the big fans are going to be mad if you don't sort of hit a couple things a certain way. And the rest of it, stop watching it. Don't do this slavish version of it. Just make it your own and go.
Were you ever told to bring it down, bring it back?
Oh, all the time.
I had a director that was like, "Go too big," because I can tell you to bring it back, but it's harder to tell you to go bigger.
There's a lot, too big can be off-putting at an audition, so you really have to be careful with that. But and then in rehearsal, I like to just throw everything out there. I like to create a buffet from which the director can choose. A large salad bar. Do that, don't do that. Because otherwise, how do you find this stuff? And Caroline and I just had a blast creating this whole thing, the Countess and the Common Man. There's this big dance as these 2 middle-aged lovers reunited after a couple decades. And they sort of slowly discover through dance that they're still extremely passionate and, very attracted to each other. And they still got it. And then we realize, oh, wow, they're not in as good shape as possible. So we just sort of, in rehearsals, kept playing with how tired do we get from this? And maybe that's the joke. And then it is. And now it's literally this 2-minute middle of the number where we play how exhausted it was. And that came from him just letting us play.
Do you actually, like you, John, get exhausted at the end of every show? Because you are all over the place.
I get exhausted at the end of the Perry Holds the Key number because I run around a lot. But no, I'm usually ready for an old fashioned or 2 after the show. But I wouldn't say I'm exhausted. My feet hurt, but that might just be being, my age. So
yeah, a spry young 36.
Yeah, exactly. Well, 37 now.
Yeah, so right. The show is unfortunately closing March 31st.
Yep, but we had a great run.
It was over 2 years, right? Yeah.
It'll be 2 years, including previews. It'll be 2 years. Yep. And that last 6 months, I wasn't going to stay, and they sort of made me an offer I couldn't refuse in terms of, well, you can leave to do this, and again, what little TV I do. They were like, go do it, and I'm having such a good time, and I love the company, and I'm a little, I wouldn't say protective of the role because I'm happy to, to know my good friend Ed Staudenmeyer is playing it on tour, and I've made friends with Javier Nevarez, who's playing it in Madrid, and of course the wonderful covers in New York, who do such a great job. It's in good hands with those guys, but I'm thrilled to get to ride the whole train there from beginning to end.
I didn't know it was in Madrid. Did they translate it to Spanish?
I hope so. Yes, they did.
Because I guess tours do go international and they don't change it. And I don't know if that's a normal thing.
It's currently in Stuttgart, Germany, Madrid, and on tour nationally. And there's going to be a West End in Australia.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Still have to translate it to Aussie.
Yeah.
Yep. So you mentioned TV. You've got some recurring guest spots, most likely on Gossip Girl, All My Children, Madam Secretary. You've even been on the Kimmy Schmidt show.
I love it.
Yeah. So you said that the shows let you out the door, for a little bit to do TV. How often do you get to do this?
Well, it's hit and miss. It's usually when I wind up in the script. Madam Secretary, they don't always need the Attorney General of the United States to be in every episode. But I've done 7 so far, just in the past couple seasons. And they say I'll be back, so we will see. But it's a whole different world, as you know. And, when I was first trying to do television 15, 20 years ago, there was a real snobbery against musical theater actors. Like, we need real actors, which was just like, screw you, buddy. But, I'm not going to come in and go, ha-cha, on your, police drama. But
give the Fosse hands in the middle of NCIS.
Yeah. But I think the more you do, like with theater, work begets work. And the more they figure out, well, he actually can speak like this and say, my first TV gig was the inevitable Law and Order, where I got to say, yeah, I remember, nice enough girl, kept to herself, had a boyfriend, came around once in a while, drove a Harley, looked like he roughed her up once in a while. Now, if you excuse me, I've got work to do.
I'm impressed you still remember the line.
That was the whole scene.
How long ago was that?
Because here's why. That guy appears in about every episode of Law and Order. There is a version of that character in every single one. And I love that he's always like, now, if you'll excuse me, I've got work to do.
Yeah,
I've got to get back to pushing my boxes
Yes.
to these cops, these detectives. But, the more you do, the more they let you do. And, I went in to do 1 episode of Gossip Girl, and they were like, yeah, he doesn't suck. Let's bring him back, and he'll be a recurring character. And I started out as sort of mild-mannered accountant guy, and then I got a little evil, and then I got more evil, and then I got murdered. And then they talked about me long after I was murdered because there was a whole trial for my murder. So I felt like I was in even more episodes because they talked about me.
I have a logistical question for you. For TV movies, when, if your character, you get murdered, and then you are... the next episode is a funeral scene and it shows your face on a picture over the casket. Do you get paid for that?
They have to pay you, yes.
Anytime.
It's not much. It's like a $250 usage fee, it's called. But they image use. But and sometimes they'll use flashback stuff where you get a portion of your original rate for shooting that. I don't know exactly how it works, but I do know residuals are a lovely thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What do you enjoy most about a TV, I guess, versus theater?
I love doing TV because that is something I never thought I'd do. I knew I always wanted to be on stage, and I knew I would just want to be doing 1 Broadway show, and then I'll go back to journalizing, being a journalist, or going into banking, oddly enough, was an option at one point. But
you would be the funniest banker there was. Yeah.
I'm sure there are very, very a lot of funny bankers. But
buy low, sell high.
But wait, what was the question? What were we talking about?
What do you like about TV?
Oh, what do I like about TV?
Yeah.
That it's a whole different thing. It is a completely different way of acting because, it's quite, particularly now, I always sort of make fun of how everything's whispered and then there's a sound effect that's deafening and you have to leap for the remote and turn down the sound. But you just exercise different muscles, certainly. And the more you do, I think I've gotten a little better at it. I watch some of the early stuff I do and I literally cringe. Just like, oh, Bolton, what are you doing? But once in a while, there's things, usually because a director was particularly good. I loved our director on Boardwalk Empire, this guy, Tim Van Patten, and the episode won an Emmy. He was nominated for it, but the cinematography of that episode wound up winning an Emmy. But I got the crap beat out of me on that episode and did my own stunts. Again, something I never thought I could do. But you just dive in, and they made me extremely comfortable. And it wound up being something that I'm really, really proud of and watch and don't cringe.
Is there a role on TV right now that if you were given the opportunity, you could just be like, I want that one, give it to me? Something you haven't done, or a style of a character?
Sure. You know, I'm a funny guy on Broadway usually. But, you know, I've done a couple episodes of Kimmy Schmidt, but other than that, I've done no comedies. It's been all like drama, and I'm like the guy that comes in on Madam Secretary with all the information that's got long legal things that they've got to hash out. And it's all very serious. And I've never, aside from Tina Fey and Robert Carlock trusting me with a little crabby bus driver guy that has a couple episodes. But yeah, I'd love to do something funny. I'd love to be, you know, cranky next door neighbor or funny next door neighbor or funny uncle or gunkle or something. Just you know, a nice role on the show that maybe doesn't need to carry the show, but shows up once in a while, and we go, he's back. We like him.
Like the Kramer of a sitcom. You just pop in, yeah.
Even that's a lot of responsibility, but that's sure. And something funny, you know, just something that lets me be funny.
Well, do you have a pitch for everybody listening? What would you want somebody to write for you?
Oh gosh.
Have you thought about this? Do you think about like, this needs to be a TV show?
Well, I do a lot of characters myself that I think would make lovely skits on Saturday Night Live, but no one's going to trust a 53-year-old guy as a newcomer on Saturday Night Live. So I feel like that ship sailed before I was ready for it.
Leslie Jones was 45 before she got on.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll take Leslie Jones to lunch and see what happens.
There you go.
No, I don't know. That's a big pipe dream, but no. I hope someday someone lets me be funny. And got to tell you, Alan, my biggest dream. And people listening to this may go, seriously, we've listened to you for how long now, and that's what you want? I would love to host a talk show. Just a little online thing where I get to talk to my famous friends and fangirl out, where we get to do this, and maybe it's on camera and we get a few audiences. We would let people know in advance questions that we got for this person, that person. I'm not your competition, I promise.
Oh, no.
I won't compete. But that's actually something I would love to do because I love talking to people about it, and I want to get inside the head of, like, my good friend Orson Bean. He's a 91-year-old genius of a comedian. You can't be with him and not laugh until your gut hurts and you're just crying tears of joy from just hearing his stories. I just want to sit down with him and let the world see what it is he can do and what we've got and bring it out through our fun conversations.
Well, word on the street is that the podcasting format is very popular these days.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Well, it's because you do such a good job at it.
Oh, well, thank you. So we've been talking for a long time about lots of successes and lots of happy times. Do you deal with any like the opposite side of the coin, like personal struggles, or like when you haven't worked for a little while, do you like start to question yourself?
It's scary. Face saving is my biggest thing. What I've learned to be able, that is okay to say, you know, and fortunately I have a lot of friends in my life who are very supportive, and they tend to assume that I'm doing something. So they go, what are you working on now? And I've learned that it's okay to say, I'm taking a break, or I'm enjoying a break, as opposed to, well, I'm doing a reading, or I've got some irons in the fire, and, you know, trying to save face while you're walking your dog and you run into some acquaintance and you feel like I'm only as good as my current job, so I must be on Broadway or I'm a big loser now. You know, that I've thrown away. And after fighting with it for a long time, it's okay to say, well, what are you doing? Nothing. You know, on Facebook, when I did a little post about our 8 weeks left of Anastasia and what a pleasure it's been. And because I do know I've got a lot of people from my hometown that still want to see it. So I post for them, and here's your chance. And right away I get a message saying, what's next? I'm like, God, let the paint dry on this one. I don't freaking know what's next. Just, you know, I don't know. I'm sorry to disappoint you. And feeling like you're disappointing them with an answer that isn't, I'm in a new big fancy thing, because that's what you want to hear. So learning to deal with that and learning it's okay to say, I'm not doing anything right now. It's a perfectly legitimate answer.
So I think I can humbly remind you, or maybe make you aware of something, that being on the other side of things, where you are now for so long, that maybe if you're asked what's next, it's because people love you so much that they're so sad Anastasia's closing.
Yeah,
so
my partner tried to sped that to me as well and said, she meant well and she's a good person and all that. So, you know. Because I was like, can you believe it?
Yeah.
You know, what's next? Anyway.
She's so sad that she won't get to see you, so she wants to see the next thing.
That's exactly it.
Well, you mentioned Facebook, actually. You've been in the business for a couple decades now. Yeah, it's safe to say. you mentioned Facebook, and now that there's a rise of social media, I always really enjoy people who have been doing this for many years. How have you seen the industry change? What's new today versus in the early '90s, late '80s?
Okay.
Besides the internet,
Well,
yeah.
the social media situation, and in terms of auditions, now they just look for particularly for TV stuff. They just go send us a video or send us a YouTube link or a reel of some sort that shows him on camera. So that's changed. And hard copy headshots barely exist anymore. It's all just online through Actors Access or casting networks. Everything's online, and hopefully your agents or managers take care of most of that for you. But in terms of social media, I feel like there is a lot of people do it very well, and a lot of people don't. And the ones that do it don't appear desperate, and I think that is sad. And I think people see that, notice that, and there are a lot of extremely successful people who don't do any social media and are just as successful as you are trying to get your followers. Now, fortunately, I've been in Anastasia, and I think Gossip Girl also helped when it was still on with the follower situation with me. Of course, Anastasia did. My God, I think I've whatever 18 something thousand, and there's people that's like that's all, and there's people that are like, oh my God. I'm one of the people that's like, I never thought I'd have more than 2,000 people. Like, who would want to care what I'm doing when I'm walking my dog? And I really enjoy the Instagram because it's visual. And I enjoy the fans, sort of asking about my dogs or it's never been too creepy. So
do you engage with comments?
I will click like once in a while, or if I feel it's safe, I will engage. I've regretted that on occasion. And
really?
Then there's the famous block situation that happens. But I really do admire those that make it a full-time job, and it is a full-time job. The social media. Christy Altamar does it. She's a genius at it because she means it. She is a good human being who genuinely cares about her fans, who is willing to spend time with them, to sacrifice her personal downtime to recover from 8 shows a week of this huge role where she does carry the show. To interact with her fans, and I have never, ever seen it be in an insincere fashion. But she also has a security team, kind of looking out for her because a lot of fans take that as, we're good friends now. And it's like, well, actually, she's just being very generous now. So careful with that. But she's a genius at it. I really, really admire her.
That's crazy.
Leslie Margarita is a genius at social media. She's hilarious. I have a lot of good friends who are great at it, and I learned from them. Here's what works, Bolton. Here's what doesn't work from that. So you sort of learn what works and what doesn't work.
Seems in general, a very observant guy.
I try.
You're always watching.
But I'm also me, and I do try to honor that. I do try to sort of see what works for other people and then try to take that and apply it to the John Bolton-ness about me.
Conceptually.
And I try to make that work. Yeah.
Yeah. You apply the concepts, not the literal,
yes.
The little crop. Yeah. So we are very close to time here because you have a show to go do.
Oh my gosh. I get to be on Broadway. It never gets old, man. I walk through that stage door and I'm like, I get to be on Broadway tonight.
Really?
So
every
lucky.
night?
Well, when I remember, but I remember it frequently that I am. It never, ever gets old how lucky I have been.
Do you do the stage door thing afterwards too?
I did it for a year, and I love everyone that waits out in the cold and everything. But I sort of stopped. I do it, I'd say, a couple times a month. And I enjoy it. And I will do it our whole last week. I'm sure I'll do it just because it's all the fans are coming back. And I will be very, very happy to see them. They're so generous. They give us all this stuff. And sometimes it's extremely thoughtful and can often bring a tear to your eye. And we're a part of that. And I'm thrilled to get to do that. Because believe me, I was a fanboy. I waited outside the stage door at 9 to say hello to some of those people when I was in high school. And outside the stage door, Dream Girls and Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I chased one of the actresses playing one of the orphans in Annie down the street to get her autograph in 1978. So
wow.
There's that.
Okay, so we have three questions here, standard questions that we ask everybody on the podcast. Okay. The first one here simply is, what motivates you?
The joy I get from working in this business. It's what I always wanted to do. I get to do it. We get to change people's lives, hopefully, if the show is good. And if you're lucky enough to be in a show you love, working with people you love, there's just nothing better. And that motivates me. The joy for the business motivates me.
And what advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now, starting out down a similar path?
Be you. Be yourself. Don't compare yourself to others. Do your best always. And as long as you do your best, you might not get that job. But if you do your best, they'll call you in for the next one. And they'll call you in for the next one. And then once in a while, one of those times doing your best, it'll be your turn to get the part.
Yep. And last question, if you could only see one show for the rest of your life, but you can see it as many times as you want, what show would you see?
Does it need to be something I've never seen, or can it be something?
Anything.
Well, I am obsessed. I think Guys and Dolls is about the most perfect musical ever written, and I think it would be really thrilling to see that original production in the 50s and just see where it all started. So I would imagine that, and I would never, ever get tired of that wonderful score.
Wonderful. And so now, thank you for coming. We can find you on Twitter and Instagram at It's John Bolton. And that's it. Yeah. Oh, Facebook. You mentioned Facebook too, right? What's your Facebook account?
I don't know. I think it's just John Bolton. But I do sort of save that for, the people I went to high school with and friends from my hometown. But yeah, Instagram and Twitter. Blue Dot. I'm John Bolton. And I love it. I'll click like if I like it enough.
So you can get more of...
If you make me laugh, I will always click like. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, everybody send John your best dad jokes.
Please do, because I am your dad. You don't know it yet, but I am your dad.
You can get more of me, theater_podcast on Instagram and Twitter, facebook.com/official theater podcast. Wherever you're listening now, please rate, share, follow, give an honest review. I would love reading those. You can send me an email via feedback@thetheaterpodcast.com. This is produced by Jillian Hockman. The music you're hearing right now is by Jukebox the Ghost. John Bolton, thank you so much for chatting with me. This has been incredible.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.